Welcome to the Insum Insider.
Welcome to the Inside. This is the Insum Insider, your source for Oracle Apex tips, techniques, methodology, and really wherever that discussion takes us. I'm your host, Monty Latchley, the cat in the hat, the kid with the lid, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere in the wilds of Northwest Houston, Texas. And with me today is my good friend and member of the Insum family, Michelle Scamany. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Monty.
At the helm, keeping us on time and task, is our producer, French Canadian, Mark Rule.
Hey, Monty. Hey, Michelle. Hi, everyone.
It's Thursday, June 18th, episode 9. And thank you for spending a piece of your afternoon with us. Coming to you today through the miracle of Zoom teleconferencing. Michelle, welcome back. It's just not the same when you're not here. I got to say, last week you missed a great session.
I picked the right one to miss, right? I was watching though. I thought it was a fantastic session. We've had so many great comments. If anybody missed it, we've put the recording up on YouTube in the Insum Insider portal. It was a great one. I was watching and I was so nervous for Anton. He was just going, that clock in the corner was making me very nervous, but he did great. So we called it Zero to App in 45 minutes. But I like the way Hayden actually called it Apex Sampler. And I think it's just, it was a great way to see all of the amazing low-code features of Apex and what you can do. So yeah, I enjoyed watching that one as a participant.
Yeah, it was great. You know, we've spoken, Michelle. We learn stuff ourselves. We learn stuff every week on these these sessions. But I got to say that one was my favorite of all that we've done. And you know, we talk about Apex being a rad tool, but nothing demonstrated that fact like 45 minutes. Even though Anton says, you know, you can't build an app in 45 minutes, he damn sure did.
And published it and shared it. You know, it could use some improvements, of course. But yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, imagine what could have been done had we given him the whole day.
I've seen what he can do in a day.
Or over the course of a weekend.
Our PPE Exchange website, he did amazing with that in over a weekend. So
Exactly. Well, on the docket today is a discussion of extending your ERP with Application Express. You know, whether it's EBS or you know, Fusion Cloud apps, whatever your ERP is, you know, a lot of times it's kind of take it or leave it. It's kind of one size fits all or one size better fit all. You know, a lot of times you're asked to take your processes and make them fit the software, and that's not really the reality, is it?
No, and I think it's important not to feel stuck. And if you see gaps where your ERP is not meeting or fitting your business process, you do have options. And I think our guests today, our panelists today are very well suited to share with the audience how those gaps can be filled with the tool we all know and love. Precisely.
Now the EBS part, we've had success there for years, but the Fusion Cloud has always kind of eluded us until this past year, whenever we put it squarely in the crosshairs, and now we have a solution, and it's going to be a great session here today. We're going to be joined by Sylvain Martel, who is our EBS practice director for Insum, and we're excited that he's going to be joined by one of our partners with AXIA, Matt Hauser. Sylvain, welcome to the Insum Insider.
Hey, thank you, Monty. And hi, Matt. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Sylvain?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the intro, Monty. It's fun to be here. I feel like I'm a regular now. So anyway,
we kind of think you are. We think you are a regular. We'd love to have you join us any week you choose.
I'm taking over your spot right now. So yeah. So anyway, so exactly as Monty was saying, we definitely were like pros at EBS and Apex and into the last couple of years, and the reason Matt is here with us today is that we've been working with AXIA. Matt is from AXIA Consulting, and he'd be able to introduce himself a little bit. And we've been, exchanging ideas on how we can help organization on going on Fusion, and that seems pretty popular these days, to be able to bridge some gaps in their business processes. So, like I said, we've been doing that for many years in EBS. So, Matt, why don't you just introduce yourself to this Insum Insider community?
Sure. My name is Matt Hauser. I'm with AXIA Consulting. I'm a part of the Oracle practice. We do EBS and Oracle Cloud Fusion, whatever you want to call it, implementations and projects. I've been doing Oracle since, I don't know, 16 years now. And I've worked with Insum on a couple projects, Sylvain in particular. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here. Would you like me to talk about? Go ahead.
Well, what I want to know, because I never, Matt and I, we know each other for a couple of years, meeting at Collaborate, and we'll always have a good time meeting the people we know, which we totally miss, and that's why we have these Insum Insider. I don't even know where's home for you.
Home is Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, Cincinnati.
Just north of Cincinnati, yeah, in a suburb called Mason.
All right. So.
Yeah.
Close to the first pro baseball team in Major League Baseball. The Cincinnati
That is correct.
Reds.
That is correct. Love
we're
them.
missing baseball.
I miss it so much. My son is actually playing baseball, and they started. So I'm getting my baseball fix there. But yeah,
well, talking about sports, I wore my Montreal Canadiens shirt just for Monty today because I know he's a hockey fan, believe it or not, even if he's from Houston. So anywho, talking about Fusion and EBS. So
sure.
You've been a lot of experience on working on EBS implementation. So let's start there and tell us what you see on the field. Why do people need to extend and do customization, and what has been your experience with that over the years?
Well, I think there's a misconception that customizations are always bad, and that is not, in my opinion, the case. There's always going to be some business drivers that are going to require you to make customizations. And in the past, with EBS, starting with the Java applet that comes up, creating a custom form for a business process is rather lengthy, and it can be painful. And that's, Oracle's moving away from the Java applet and is moving towards the HTML. The nice thing about Apex is the low code. You can spin up pages. I think Michelle and Monty were talking about it earlier, very quickly. And you can enable it to look exactly like the EBS forms, the OAF forms.
Right.
And you can also pull in data from lots of different screens. You can then let the user customize, move the columns around. You can edit the data on the screen, and then make calls back to Oracle APIs to feed the seeded tables. But it really lets you slice and dice it. We used it together to create a budgeting application that pulled data from projects, from financials. I did another one where we were pulling inventory, order management, PEM information all into one source, so that that data can be edited in one spot.
So would you say that this is maybe not the only use case, but one of the weakness, I guess, in EBS, where if you go and enter an invoice, you see invoices. If you go and enter a PO, you enter a PO. You can't mix and match the data object. Is that what you see as a major request or demand from users and organizations?
Yeah, a lot of times, a screen might have 80% of the data that they want there, but it's missing 20%, right? They want to see, for taking that example, it's a receivable screen, and there's a couple fields from some other module that they want to see on that screen too, because their business it helps them out a lot. And what ends up happening is people will take the data off of the multiple screens, export it into Excel, do VLOOKUPs, and try and get it to that get that picture of the data that they want to see. Whereas you can do that within Apex on the screen and essentially edit data right there and then send it back, and you don't have to worry about that.
So you've seen that like a common use case to export out into Excel and make other decision based on, or try to make decision out of that data in an Excel spreadsheet. Is that a fair statement?
Sure. Yeah.
So in your experience, because you obviously went through multiple implementation and support and what is the biggest I would say extension or customization or thing that you need to do to fill a gap in the EBS world?
It's going to depend on the industry and the business case, I guess. But to me, a lot of it is just merging of data to get the picture of the data that I need to make a business decision on the screen. Right. And people have 3 or 4 monitors and try to bridge have different screens pulled up at the same time, or multiple spreadsheets that they're doing VLOOKUPs or complicated formulas. And with any of that stuff, there's the potential, when everybody's doing it their own separate way, human error is going to come in. Right?
Of course.
So then that's why Apex being able to do a lot of that right online and create graphs and manage that data and make it a business process that everyone is following really helps out.
Now, about a year ago, the last Collaborate conference, we were talking, and you were telling me that AXIA is moving towards implementing Fusion quite a bit, and there were different challenges to implement an ERP on as a SaaS as opposed to EBS, where for filling gaps in the business process, you have the database right there, and it's kind of easy to go and queries and extract and whatnot. And that's a little bit different in Fusion. So you told me about a couple of use cases. I think there were four different use cases, and I would like you to tell me about these use cases, because as we're working in our own world here, I was able to develop some sort of a extension on Apex from Fusion, and you told me about the use case, but you haven't seen the result yet. So what I would like to do, if you can tell me about the use case, and maybe we can just walk through what we have done in terms to answer these use cases. So
sure.
Why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And a lot of what you see in Fusion ends up being, there's data on one screen. To get to the picture that I want to see, I have to do a couple extra clicks. A good example of that would be if you're a multinational corporation and you have a number of different currencies, you can search on a currency, and maybe there's some additional fields you want to see on the next screen, but you want to see that all together at the same time, right? You want to see what it is for euros and pounds and Thai baht or whatever you're transacting in, and you can't do that just by going to the manage currencies screen. That's
why don't we have a look at this? So
all right, yeah, absolutely, show me.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen right now, and we're going to go to a Fusion instance. So here's as opposed to EBS, and here's a little advertisement, as opposed to EBS where we can just install like a Fusion or a Vision instance, sorry, which is a demonstration, because we're not EBS users, we're just developing on that. You can install that on OCI on your own server and whatnot. it's totally different with Fusion. I think you experienced that, Matt, as well.
Yep.
So we have a consulting firm that we partner with in Europe, and the name is Talent, and they graciously open up the door of their own Fusion instance so we can develop on Fusion, and obviously work with them to serve their customer in Europe, which we're just about to do. So here we have a Fusion homepage, and what I had done, hopefully this is big enough and you can see, I have created my own little infolet. I think that's what I call it. I need to get used to this lingo here. So a little infolet with a couple of Apex application right now. So I'm going to show you, as we walk through the different use cases, I'm going to show you the applications. And when we're done with this, I'll show you behind the scene how we were doing that. So here's one here called Fusion Configuration. So Fusion Configuration is all the 4 different use cases, Matt, that you provided me, or you told me, and Matt hasn't seen this yet. So what happened now is that we were in Fusion, we're still in Fusion, I suppose, but here we were redirected to an Apex application, which can be of any look and feel you want. And I just chose something that is look and feels like a modern type of applications. We have a landing page with a couple of items: manage legal addresses, legal entities, currencies, and manage items. And I think that might be like good tools for an implementer or a super user to use, as opposed to go left and right in Fusion. So let's try this. So now I'm in my Apex application, and what's important to understand here is that I'm the same user. So if I go at the very bottom of this, I recognize that I'm this user, and it validates my session is valid. So from a session point of view, I'm still within my Fusion session. And the fun thing here, and I'm going to give you some info, Matt, here, is that everything is through web services. I could create my own tables in Apex, because this Apex application is running on an autonomous database cloud. So the autonomous database cloud is somewhere, I don't know where, it's just on the cloud. Fusion is a part, and we're able to make them talk together. All right, so that's the premise. So here I have an interactive report, as you probably have seen many times. Matt. So here I have a couple of info about the currencies. So I can see here that for some reason they're all enabled. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but they all enable here, even the ones that are a little bit obscure. And if you want to look at a specific one, then I just click on USD, for example. Then I'm going to show the details. So once again, what's happening here is it goes, Apex goes and calls a web service to get the details of this currency, shows you the details. And if it would allow you, could also update it from here. Here I put like a sub-region where I can see the conversion rates between, let's say, USD and let's say Canadian, right? And then it's going to go and fetch these rates. Unfortunately, in my instance, which is just like a fresh instance with a few data, I don't have any currency. But if they would, then they would show up here. So that's my little vision of what the currency screen could look like in Apex. So what would be missing here, Matt, from this screen? Still there, Matt? Did I lose you? You're there, but there's no sound. All right. So let's continue. So I'm just going to continue here for a few seconds. So what I was able to do here.
Hey, Sylvain, I'm sorry. I just got back. I don't know what happened.
I was just talking and asking you questions, and
I'm
there
so
was no
sorry.
answer. I thought I said something offensive.
No, 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 no. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. So all I was saying here is that was my little version of a currency screen. So what would you see added to this screen when we're looking at this detail and the rates and whatnot?
Yeah, so I think this looks great. Are you searching on a?
I'm just playing around with the data that I have.
No, I think this is great that you can see everything together. So what would be nice would be if it's possible to add some of this stuff together on that back screen. I think that would be really great.
Now, one thing I noticed, and this was done in a way that, was our sort of the first draft of this, is it's one thing that I noticed is there's still a lot of APIs that provides limited access to the data. So for example, currencies, you can query all the currency or a specific currency and get some details out of it, not much, but there's no way to update or create new currencies from here. So it's probably, I think the philosophy, and I don't know if you can confirm that or not, that maybe because those are more like master data, they didn't want to provide too much opening to that type of information.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. But just being able to have a lot of the data on one screen is helpful.
Cool. So let's go back to the home screen here and tell us about another use case that you were talking about or had in mind.
Sure. So one of them that you had up there, the managed legal entities. Getting into legal entities within Fusion is very difficult. Well, it's not difficult, it's just time consuming because you have to set your preference for what legal entity you're going to edit first. And then after you set that, then you have to set another parameter before you can even get to the screen to look at it. There's no way to compare legal entities together on the same screen because it's multiple clicks just to set the parameter, and then you're in that legal entity looking at those parameters.
Okay.
Which can be challenging.
Well, that's interesting you say that. So why don't we have a look at what it is right now? So I believe we need to go to configuration and maintenance, and you might need to help me a little bit here.
Yep.
So I'm here and I think, oh, sorry, it's all in French. So, you have to practice your French from high school, I suppose. So I think it might be in this legal structure and legal entities.
Yeah, so if you look on the right there, you have...
oh yeah, over here. Yeah, oops, sorry, so I went too fast, I think. All right, this one here.
Yes, well, so I think 3 down, is that selection?
Select, yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
So that you have to select something before you go into the actual screen. So click on that select.
And then you select the entity.
And then you select that entity, which you had already done above, but now you have to do another selection below that. So
okay.
Look.
Select and add, maybe.
Actually, click out of that. There's a second drop down, so now you have to go to that drop down.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then hit select and add.
And then something happened. We're not sure. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe we need to create a new one. Yeah, I can see it's quite confusing.
But you have to, so you have to set the one preference, and you set another preference, then you get to the screen.
All right. Okay. So the legal entity is this one, which I already selected, I suppose. So it
Yeah.
brings me
Yep.
over right to this. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what I did is, and once again, hopefully that makes sense with that use case, is that I just went here and I'm able to display legal entities. So since I'm pretty sure that we don't have many legal entities, I can show them in a different view. So I chose cards here because what I like about cards is that you can add some text. So for example, you know, as opposed to just say start date or effective dates from and to, I was able to define that this entity is always active, meaning there's no from date and end date, it's always active. As opposed to this one that has been active since the 22nd of January 2018 and forever. So to me, that seemed to be talking a little bit more to the users.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, just like anything else, you can, you know, do a quick selection, adding a parameter, which we added, but it's super easy to do. And once again, this is all web services that we're using. And over here, the data that I'm able to get from the legal entity. Now, because we're really experimenting with this quite a bit, and
Sure, yeah.
and the address is going through the registration, and then you get the address from there, the entity registration, I believe it is. So I want to show these addresses just like this, but it looks like this screen needs a little bit more get addresses from other web services, which it's a work in process, and I'm about to do that right now.
No, yeah, that I think just being able to pull some of this data into an Apex page is helpful.
And you know what? Here's another example where you would not be able to update directly through web services, but what you would need to do is, you know how you can when you initially configure Fusion, you create these Excel spreadsheet and you upload them.
Yeah.
So it seems like all that master data is can only be updated through these Excel spreadsheets. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. But once it's there, pulling the information together is what's difficult.
All right.
To really be able to understand what your environment looks like.
So how about we show a last use case, and then we can go under the hood a little bit and see how Apex and Fusion are talking to each other. Because sure. I really like that use case about items.
Yeah. So one of my clients that I was working with, they are using SCM Cloud. And the items, being able to edit multiple items at once is something that they would really like to do. And just when you pull back the data in a search, you might have a bunch of items that begin with the same number, for example, but you're very limited in the amount of fields you can show on the screen. So you might have to click into each one of them to figure out, is this the item that I'm looking for? And that makes it difficult. And so if you're able to add more items to the search results, I could see that being a big help to a lot of folks using SCM Cloud.
Well, let's see what I had done here, hopefully to satisfy this requirement. So let's go back to my home screen here. So here's my manage item, and mind you, in this instance, once again, there's not that much information and not too much info, but you know, we'll be able to see a few things. So how about I'm gonna first search. So first of all, because items can be a large amount of information, I thought that I would ask the user for some parameters before showing, 10,000 items, and that's not what you're looking for. So either we go by maybe the organization code, right? So let's
Sure.
do search items. And unfortunately, this Fusion instance is quite slow, and it looks like I don't have information here to show. Maybe if I do this, that's going to help. Oh wow, what a bummer. See, this is what happened when you do live demo. Well, here's what I'm going to do. Oh, it takes a little longer. Maybe I'll have something to show you. Oh, there you go. Finally. All right. Here's a little bug. So, so I said, okay, well, show me the all the items that are info something, and I noticed that this first one. So I only have a few from this from different organization, and I noticed that this one has my name at the end of it. That's not really right. So how about we put the details on this? And actually, before we do that, the fun thing about interactive report, and I just brought a few
Sure.
fields, is that you can add as much as you want. So I know that the items, you have like about 1,000 fields. So you know, potentially could bring all the 1,000 field here in your first search. But for the user, you just display a few depending on the use case. So you're able to do that. And then in the details section, then what you can do is show the detail of like the header information. And then similar to how the screen works in Fusion and also in EBS, then have different sub region and sub information that you can see the data. So I haven't put all the different fields here, but you would imagine that different regions would have different fields so that you can squeeze the different regions so it's not super crowded as it could be. And then, you know, we have all sorts of things here. So once again, all this through web services, and I don't have access to the SaaS database, which makes total sense. But if I do make an update here, which I'm allowed to do, then I just go and save the, here I just remove that SIL from the item description because it doesn't make sense to have my name on this. And it calls the web service. And one thing about calling the web service is that it always validates that this user, every time you call to get some data or to refresh, it makes sure that the session is valid, that the user is allowed to do that, and then execute the web service, the update, the operation that you want to do in a very modern type of way for the user. I think that is much more interesting than looking at the Fusion screen.
Yeah, that's great.
And one thing I know I added quickly, and unfortunately, like I said, there's just not much data to show, but to come with your idea of aggregate more data or to be able to display more data into the one screen, then what I could do here is have just a little link on this item to show the on-hand quantities, or where is it located in different locators, etc. I don't have on-hand quantities for these items, unfortunately, but here you would see like a grid or a report of, you know, where those quantities are and, you know, do any action upon it.
Yeah, but being able to show that quickly would be very helpful instead of having to then go to some other screen, and then just having it pop up is helpful, right? Because then you're still on that screen and you can then you can click on the next one instead of clicking in and redoing your search.
Yeah, because manage item, I don't know how people are doing it. And sorry for the folks on the Fusion application group, people that are doing the GUI, but to go over here into some sort of a hidden area, and maybe there's other ways, but it just seems a little bit awkward to find your way into the report, and then you only see 2 lines. I don't know if it's always like this, but you only see
Yeah.
2 lines, and then from here, that's fine. You know, you can look at some information, and this is what we've changed. But it just seems like there's a lot of white space and unused area that is you know, typical of requests from the users not to have too much white space for no reason.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Sylvain, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that, you know, we can do this customization, we can address the presentation layer, and, you know, and dress it up, make it look maybe more appealing than what's out of the box. But how can you future proof what you're doing? I mean, what if they come up with updates to the SaaS offering? Are the extensions that you've done in Apex, are they going to continue to work?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think we have the same. We have to consider that the same way as we were doing with EBS. If you were going to use an API that EBS provides, every time you have a major update or an upgrade, you need to regression testing the application you created to make sure that the API still works. Now, here's my real answer in twofold. The first fold is the way we're doing right now, and we're just calling those RESTful services directly from the SaaS application, from Apex to the SaaS application. You still have that consideration to put into your regression testing, where because they're updating on a regular basis, maybe the API requires a new parameter, or they have a mandatory field of some sort. To me, the best way of satisfy or to future-proof these extension that you do on the SaaS, and specifically on Fusion, is to go through Oracle Integration Cloud. So Oracle Integration Cloud is like a mini SOA, if you wish, which has all the connectors that are provided on Fusion, but other applications also, Workday, Salesforce, and even just like databases like DB2 and Microsoft SQL. And what's happening here is that the Oracle Integration Cloud would make sure that any RESTful service that is changed would change also in the Integration Cloud part, so that it's a layer of abstraction that would protect you in order to create these extensions that will live forever. I suppose as a bonus also, you're not sitting on the SaaS application. So and I can show you in a few minutes, this Apex application runs on autonomous database, which is somewhere else, and it doesn't really have a relationship with the SaaS. So this Fusion can have as many updates as it wants. It doesn't really matter for us, because we're decoupled from the Fusion SaaS application, and we're running our Apex application, which can combine also custom database or custom tables. I don't know if that answered your question, Monty.
Yeah, no, you actually went into the Integration Cloud, and that's where I was hoping you would go with that, because I think that's really a great solution. And then, you know, you can have a lot more confidence there that these things are going to continue to work into the future.
Absolutely. Now, if you don't mind, Matt, I'd like to show a little bit of the technical aspect of what we have done here. We just saw it in action. So let me share my screen here for a minute.
And gentlemen, while we're at it, I just want to invite all participants. Please don't hesitate if you have any questions. That's what we're here for.
Perfect. So here's my my Apex builder on autonomous cloud. So, you know, it's just regular Apex screen with my application. Nothing new under the sun here. If if I look at Fusion and how I was able to combine or call Apex from this Fusion, the first thing you need to do is you need to, maybe, you know what, I would probably take a few seconds here to change my preferences. Where is, see, it's in French, I can't understand it. I'm used to English, so let me go and change my language. I'm gonna go to my user. And once I change my language to English, then we're going to go and see how the integration to Apex was done. So let's change that. It doesn't have my language. Well, you know what? This is how it's going to be. All right. So I'm just going to remember what are the which link number that that I need to go to. So we need to go into a config, and we're going to manage. No, that's not what it is. So I'm sorry, guys.
Sandbox.
Well, before that, I wanna go and so this is the sandbox. Yeah, the sandbox is the place where the changes that I'm making will definitely not have an impact. It's kind of my on the fly sandbox, and really there's nothing really much to it.
Sorry, Sylvain, don't mean to throw you off, but we do have a question, and it's how does Apex compare to VBCS for developing these custom extensions for Fusion apps?
Well, the main difference is definitely that VBCS is all JavaScript from a development point of view, and you need another cloud service. I guess similar to how you can compare with autonomous, but you need another cloud service. So what I would say is that it's a different technology from a development point of view. So if you're not used to JavaScript, you might have a bit of a learning curve here. In terms of how to integrate, it's to me it's very similar. Apex being on the cloud now with the autonomous database can have access to all these web services exposed by Fusion. And once again, if you include Oracle Integration Cloud, that's even more open to the outside world, either just SaaS or hybrid. You know, if you have EBS on premise and using Oracle Integration Cloud, you can access that through web services also. So that makes a very nice hybrid solution. They're just very different. I think Oracle is pushing Apex quite a bit and is going to continue supporting Apex quite a bit. Not that VBCS is dead by any means, but they're just very different technologies. And for me, you know, it's a question of choice really on how you're more comfortable with.
Thank you.
So let's go back, and we're just going to skip that first part. And really that first part, all it was is to say, hey, I have a third-party application, and you put the URL of where Apex is. So once that's done, what you need to do is do page integration. What page integration is to say, well, I'm going to have these applications called pages, and I'm going to access them in some way, right? So here's what's interesting about this is as soon as you define this application, you give it a role. So as opposed to EBS, where you know it was a more granular process where you create a function assigned to a menu, which is assigned to responsibility. Here, the role is automatically added. And then you go into this definition of the page you're going to access. And in our world, it's going to be an application. So you say, well, I want to access this cloud Apex application, which was the first step which we can't see unfortunately, but it's essentially a pointer to a URL where Apex is going to be. So when you have done that, then the rest is just to define the application that you're going to be accessing. So here, for those who know Apex a little bit, you recognize the famous signature, the F?P, with the application name and which page it's going to go to, and parameters that you can set and send over to Apex. Now, here's the secret sauce. Because you have a session going on Fusion, obviously you have a session token, so some sort of a identification for that session that you can query and make sure it's alive. So by having this token sent over to Apex, then you can generate a beginning of an authentication and make sure that these sessions, who are you and are you still alive, is brought over to the Apex application. Now, when that's done, of course, now you have to assign this to some sort of a menu structure. So let's go to structure. And now here are the different infolet, once again, if I have the right wording, and you can create your own. So I created my own little Apex extension group. And I just said, I want to have that page within that group. So that allows you to either have it on the navigation screen right here, or through the home page where all the, I guess from this, is that the springboard over here in the home page here, Matt? I can't remember. You're going to have to teach me.
Yeah, I will.
And from there, then that creates this link, and from here you can access the application. Now, a few little things that you need to do. Well, first of all, one thing we have to notice is this Apex application runs in an iframe. What that means is that as opposed to EBS where it was a total Apex page, here only this area in white is Apex. Everything else is still in the Fusion environment. So that's why you see this list of icons. I can go back to the home page and et cetera, et cetera. Only this part is Apex, and it runs within that page. Now, maybe there's a little thing I need to show you, and let me put this into a mode. So you guys are seeing the nice slide right here.
Yep, we see it.
Perfect. So this is kind of sort of come back to the question about VBCS. So in a VBCS type of solution, this is what you would have. You would need a database cloud service, potentially integration cloud, and Java's cloud service to support VBCS. In our Apex environment, it's just autonomous database cloud service, which already have Apex integrated into it. So there's no configuration other than starting up a autonomous database cloud. So it works really well. We tried it. We were really happy with this. And how this integration works is from the SaaS application with that configuration that we did with the page integration and the structure. You essentially embed an Apex page within this environment. But when you interact with that page, you're actually running directly on that PaaS environment supported by the autonomous cloud. And any fetch, updates, etc., is done through the REST call over here. So you don't really notice it as a user, but there are definitely two different instances or two different machines, if you want to say it like that, that are working to make it work.
Sylvain, we have a question that kind of comes along this way.
Okay.
And the question is, I'm a total noob with Fusion apps. Question for Matt as well, of course. What is the authentication method for Fusion apps? Is it IDCS? And if so, have you looked at using single sign-on with IDCS instead? I
think I'm going to let Matt answer that if he has an answer.
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer. I'm not aware of anyone integrating single sign-on with Fusion. That's not possible, but it's
And
all browser based. So
and
yeah,
I
and I'm
believe
go ahead.
maybe the other type of single sign-on you can use with Fusion would be Oracle Identity Cloud. Wouldn't that be right?
Right.
So that's as far as I know. Otherwise, it's just the authentication from the Fusion application itself, I believe. So for our own purpose of Apex, what we had done is in the old world of EBS and Apex, we created an engine to do a single sign-on between EBS and Apex, actually anything to Apex, because many EBS organizations don't have any type of OAM or single sign-on. They might have it for your corporation, but it's usually not included with EBS. So in order to go to an Apex application, which exposes data from a database, you need some sort of authentication. So we brought that over to our Fusion solution here because it works the same. So like you said, Mac, it sort of worked the same way. So what we're using here is our own Insum single sign-on from Fusion to Apex. So what this thing does is that it asks for Apex to load or display the an application based on a call. So for example, here on my screen, I have partner name and partner key. So I have this tooling that says if you're Fusion and you want to access this application called users, then you're going to be redirected to an Apex application that I have recorded. So there's a registration process that you can do, and that allows me to reuse that token that I was talking about and send it over to Apex.
Hey, Sylvain, do you have some information like on our YouTube channel or on our Insum website explaining the SSO pieces?
Actually, you know what? It's funny you say that. We're just so new into this. We haven't had time to develop any documentation, but you know, having this session here today with Matt and the community, I think we're ready to document our experiments and to come up with a description of what we have done and what it entails.
And
we have an attendee who mentions that just off the topic thought, would the Identity Cloud solution possibly be able to bridge the gap between SSO, similarly OIM?
Oh, definitely. And once again, I'm not a guru of OID by any means, but it definitely is able to provide a single sign-on among different type of system, cloud or on-premise. So it would depending on what you have in your organization, either SaaS or on-premise, it would definitely help bridging these gaps and create an SSO for you.
mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, Sylvain, I think you did a great job managing the different curveballs that were thrown your way. This presentation, you were obviously still figuring things out, but it was great. Very surprised that you were struggling with the French version, but I'll believe you.
I know. Isn't that crazy? I know. It's a shame almost.
And I love the whole. And here's one I made earlier. Matt, aren't you impressed with what he did? You just
Yeah, it was awesome.
And he came with a whole solution for you.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you so much.
Very good.
I was going to show it to him before, but I wanted to keep the surprise.
You know, live demos just make you feel alive. Nothing gets the blood pumping like a live demo. Thank you both, though, Sylvain, Matt, for sharing your expertise today. Sylvain, I remember the conversation we had in San Antonio at Collaborate 19, and it's fantastic to see how far things have come now.
And you know what? What we like to do at Insum is to serve our customers well, and we can see, and especially from that Collaborate conference we had last year, we can see a lot of people are going towards Fusion. The unfortunate thing is that they say, "Whoops, where's my extension? Where is my customs thing?" And they can do it. So we're happy to be able to serve them now with this solution.
Yeah, at that time, we had no answer at the time when they said, well, I don't want to go there because I rely so much on my extensions. Now we can say, you know, you don't have to lose those extensions. You can bring them forth.
Exactly. Totally.
Well, Matt, I hope you share with your AXIA brethren how much fun you had and how gentle we are with our insider newbies. We appreciate you joining us.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank Matt for joining us. It was fun.
Yeah, thank
Sure,
you.
it was fun. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, join us next Thursday, 1 week from today, for a celebration of sorts in honor of our 10th week. We're going to deliver
week.
Our last week. We're going to deliver the top 10 Apex tips as defined by our team of Insum experts. Michelle, I expect it was pretty hard to reduce it down to just 10.
So Monty, we're calling it top 10 tips, but I'm hoping that you aren't going to force us to stick to 10, because I'm seeing that list build up and I don't know how we're going to cut them. We've got some great tips in there, and I anticipate we'll be sharing more than 10, but at least 10.
That's fine with me. You know, the way we set this whole session up is we say wherever that discussion takes us.
Right.
So if we add to the 10, that's certainly fine. We're also going to revisit the highlights of the journey we've all been on these last 2.5 months. You'll laugh, you'll cry, but you'll definitely not want to miss it. And Downbeat, as always, will be at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. If you have additional questions, head over to the Insum Insider Forum. Both Sylvain and Matt will be hanging out there answering your questions. Mark, put a link to the forum in the chat, will you?
And that's done.
I appreciate it. Michelle, thank you as always. I wouldn't want to have to do this without you here. I certainly appreciate your involvement as always.
Thank you for having me join.
Absolutely. Mark, we need to get everyone back to work. So cue the music. We'll dance on out of here, and we will do it all again next week on the Insum Insider. Thank you all.
You've been listening to the Insum Insider.